How did you get your start in the industry?
In radio or in the industry?
In general.
In general, well, my first job was working for Wu-Tang. So that was fresh. I interned there when I was in college, and then when I got out, I was assistant to the CEO and they had a lot of different record deals at different labels at the time, and a management company. So that was my first job. After that, I worked for Eminem, and then I worked at Eminem's radio station, and then I got recruited by Power 105.
What did you take away from your experience working with a great group like Wu-Tang?
Well, that was a great first job for me to have. I mean, I got to do a lot of things because a lot of people were never in the office that used to work there, so I had a lot of control during that time. So it wasn't like just being an assistant. I mean, I got to go on the road. You know, I had to log things in the studio all the time. I had to deal with the finances, with payroll, with all of that. And then I got to sit in on a lot of meetings because my boss was pretty cool about that. So, you know, I would be sitting in the meetings with like Steve Rifkin, who was at Loud Records at the time, and, you know, like the president of Epic Records at Sony, or whoever, Sylvia Rohn at Elektra, just all the different heads of labels. So it was great for me to see how business got conducted at a very young age.
I think I saw in a previous interview that you stated that you were a manager of an artist.
Mm-hmm.
How is that different?
From Wu-Tang for a while, and Jay Electronica.
How is management different from being a radio personality?
I mean, I guess it's really like looking at things from the other side of things, because I was always at first on the artist side of things, and, you know, working with artists, we're always running late to things, people are always canceling things. So I think now being a radio personality, I'm probably more understanding of personal things that come up, you know, than the average person would be. But then I also feel like now that I'm on the radio side of things, sometimes you're like, okay, you guys got to show some respect and show up on time, you know, because it's definitely not easy to get that slot on the radio. So if we have time to interview you and we're willing to do it, it's not like we get to do that with every artist we would like to. So you have to make sure you show up and be on time and be ready to talk.
Gotcha. How did the lip service come about?
Lip service started off as, when I first started at Sirius, I did a segment on the morning show, and I used to record it at night. And my friends would come up, and we would have drinks, and we would just kind of talk about regular girl things that we talk about when we're alone. But it was kind of raunchy, because girls do talk like that. You know, we are very explicit with each other about things that we do. Like if we're dating somebody, you know, we tell each other everything. So it kind of turned into, well, people liked it so much, we want you to have your own show with it. So at Sirius, they offered it to me. They said, look, people really like when you do that segment once a week on the morning show, so why don't you, you know, make that into a weekly show? I said, absolutely. And that's how it started.
You have the, I believe, the decision segment and the relationship advice from Yee as a big part of the morning show. How did your previous relationships play a part in you creating the relationship advice from Yee?
I think and a lot of people in my real life come to me for advice all the time, just because A, I have a lot of friends, and B, because I also have a lot of guy friends. So people tell me things all the time, you know, and I read a lot of magazines. I'm kind of like a unlicensed psychiatrist, I guess. But you know, I have a lot of friends that are married. I have a lot of friends that are single. I've had my own experiences with men, and I'm a pretty rational person. I'm not like a nutcase at all. So I think a lot of times when we're in the middle of something, it's hard to step back and look at a situation from a rational point of view, because when you're in the middle of it, it's very emotional. So because I have so many friends that have gone through so many different things, and because I'm around guys all the time, and I know the things that they do, it kind of puts me in a situation where, well, if you tell me this and this is happening, then I can give you some insight on what the real deal is.
You went from having your own segment to now working with two other people on Power 105. What made you leave your own show, and what did bring you three together?
I think that, you know, in general, I don't think many people could turn down a job in the #1 market in radio. And a lot of people don't even get the opportunity. People will work their whole lives in radio and never have that chance, so there was no way I could turn it down. You know, that plus they offer me more money. But it is prestigious to be on the morning show in New York City, something that I don't think would get offered to a lot of people. And to be honest, like Hot 97 did offer me a spot on their morning show as well, which I did turn down, in order to have my own show on Sirius. But that was right when Cypher was leaving, and I felt like I hadn't established myself the way I needed to be. They offered for me to keep my morning show at Sirius and for it to be my show and to develop it the way that I wanted to. Whereas if I would have left and went to Hot 97, I would have just been like the girl that does the news and the rumors, and I wouldn't even have been like my name on the marquee of the show. So at that time, at that point, I think it was in my best interest to develop myself as a brand and to do what I wanted to do, and that's why I stayed at Sirius for a few years more after that. But when the opportunity came up at Power and they said the three of us would have equal roles in the morning show, and it would be all three of us together doing it, I felt like it was a great opportunity, and I also felt like Envy and Charlamagne were very strong as far as personalities and that it would be successful.
What is your best interview on either show and why?
When I was at Sirius, one of my best interviews ever was with Jay-Z, and that was like one of my first interviews when I first started. And the reason that was so good was, I was pretty much a rookie, but it was such a funny interview. It's probably like you'll never hear Jay-Z talk like that. We were making fun of each other. He stayed way longer than he was supposed to. It was right when he had gotten the job as president of Def Jam. And he had Memphis Bleek with him and Chris from the Young Guns. So it was just a fun environment, and it was unexpected, and that kind of is what solidified my role at Sirius. So that was a landmark interview for me, I would say. But, I would say a Power our Ray J interview after the fight with Fab was pretty fun, too. Yeah,
that was hilarious. You are known for the saying, hoes be winning. What sparked that statement?
Well, that all happened when we were doing a report about Kim Kardashian and how much money the Kardashians are making. And it just made me be like, wow, hoes be winning. And it kind of came from that. We were on the air when it just came out of my mouth just like that, because I was like, and it wasn't even supposed to be an offensive remark. It was just kind of like, wow, she's like doing whatever she wants to do. Her whole fame is kind of based off of who she's in a relationship with, and she's been in a relationship with like a million people, whether they're short relationships, long relationships, marriages, or whatever, and sex tapes and all of that. So it kind of was like, you can really be winning based on who you've been with. But I think that in culture in general, like, you look at some of the most popular people that we pay attention to, and it's women that are promiscuous, because for culture, that's like more interesting for people to look at. But it also is supposed to be ironic in the way that, the biggest insult for a woman is for somebody to call you a hoe. For guys, they're like, oh, she's a hoe. For women talking about other women, they're like, oh, forget her, she's just a hoe anyway. And so it's kind of a turn it around type of thing. Like, all right, well, you want to call girls hoes, well, hoes be winning anyway, so what are you going to do?
Do you feel the same holds true in the entertainment industry? If so, how does that affect the hard-working woman like yourself on the rise?
I mean, I think, it's all relative. I think that the rules of what is acceptable and what's not acceptable has changed so much thanks to reality television, and I can't say that I think it's a good or a bad thing. I think that men have always been allowed to do whatever they want to do, and they don't get looked at any differently. As a matter of fact, they get praised for their different sexual conquests, and for women, it's always been a really negative thing. Like, right now, I think it's changed a lot. Like, you can look at Rihanna and see that I don't think that it takes away from her the fact that people think that she's promiscuous. I think people are very interested in her life, but they're not disliking her for it, whereas before, it would kind of be like, oh, she's a hoe, don't support her. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of it has to do with the changes in roles in society, because there's a lot more women that are getting empowered. So, I just think it's all relative to who you are and how you handle yourself as a person.
All right.
Like, to me, if you can do whatever you want to do if you're safe about it and if you have morals about it. Like, I don't mind being friends with a girl who, if you're single, you can do whatever you want to do with other people who are single. But I don't agree with women who are sneaky and do things like sleep with their friend's boyfriend or somebody's husband or anything like that. I can't co-sign that at all.
Gotcha. With all the different markets and other radio stations, how do you help Power 105 stay ahead of the competition?
I think that we do a lot of stuff virally. We put so much on the internet, and that's really what has been our edge over a lot of different things. Not only that, but we don't ask the typical questions in our interviews. I mean, we make sure that whoever comes on our show gets to promote whatever it is that they're trying to promote, but at the same time, it's not going to be your regular, oh, so when is the album coming out? So what producers did you work with? It's not going to be just regular standard questions. We're going to really ask you everything.
All right. I have two more questions. Being on a radio, what role do you feel that the DJ in today's society is helping the artists, the up and coming artists on the rise, as opposed to back in the day? Because it's kind of the roles feel like they kind of switch with the internet coming on, and I don't know if DJs are kind of taking a back seat or they have to go through certain channels to play certain records nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, it's way harder now for DJs to be able to break records and new artists just because of the way radio is situated where, you know, program directors are in charge of what music is played and ratings matter so much. And people like to hear songs that are popular and that they're familiar with or they might change the station. So it still is a business at the end of the day. But I think for DJs, there's a lot of other things that you can do to support new artists. I know there's a lot that I do because I have nothing to do with what music we play on the station. You know, but I'll do stuff like I'll host showcases for people. I do people favors all the time. I'll let you come up and do an interview that we're going to release just on the internet because I think you're an artist that deserves some recognition. And while I know I can't put your interview on the air yet, I can still make sure we interview you and post that online so people still get a chance to see who you are and so we still get a chance to do a great interview with somebody that I think deserves it.
All right. What artists are you listening to today?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
What artists does Angela Yee listen to in hip hop?
Who do I listen to now?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, let's see. I like Kendrick Lamar a lot, and J Rock. I like their whole crew, Absol, the whole Black Hippie Schoolboy Q. I like them. Let me see. Who else do you want new artists or just?
In general, whether new or old.
Oh. I still listen to Wu-Tang all the time. You know, no matter what. I listen to other genres of music also. I mean, I love Santi Gold. She's one of my favorite artists, and her album just came out. And, you know, I'm really into her album. Let me see, who else do I really listen to? I like 2 Chainz. I like Waka Flocka. I like fun music, you know, for the most part. But then I also sometimes, if I'm at home, like I might be listening to Adele. Or I might be listening to Katy Perry.
All right,
I'm just kind of all over the place with my musical taste.
My last question is, what do you have planned for the future outside of being a radio host or radio personality?
Well, I am currently in negotiations to do something on television, so as soon as that works out, I guess I'll be able to talk about it. I am also putting together a book. I've always wanted to be a writer ever since I was in kindergarten, so that's something that I've been actually trying to get very serious about as of late, because I feel like I have a great platform to promote that on. So something that I enjoy doing anyway.
Are you trying to write your own book or write for a publication?
I'm trying to write my own book. It's a fictional novel, but it'll be pretty fun. You know, I get inspired by like watching TV shows. Like I love that show Girls on HBO. I don't know if you saw it.
Nah.
Oh, you have to watch it. I know it's called Girls and everything, and it's weird, but it's such a good show, and the writing is so great on it. You gotta take a look at it.
All right, that was my last question. I definitely, once again, thank you for taking time out your busy schedule to interview with us.
No problem. Thank you.
All right.